Hi, everybody. This is Melinda Emerson, the Small Biz Lady, America's #1 small business expert. Now, let me introduce my guest, Dave Newell. He is on a mission to align the misaligned. He believes that connecting with leaders, he loves to connect leaders with systems that foster outstanding work and personal fulfillment. He collaborates with small business leaders to implement what he calls the 5 facets of business, a small business operating system to optimize businesses and foster team alignment around culture, strategy, operations, story, and finances. This framework provides leaders with the necessary clarity and alignment to crush both short and long-term goals. As CEO of Evolve Leadership Consulting, Dave has coached hundreds of leaders, both nationally and internationally, to implement his framework. For more information, go to evolve-consulting.com. Dave, welcome to the Small Biz Chat podcast.
Well, hey, thanks so much for having me.
Now, tell me your origin story, right? How did you become the alignment guy, right? Tell me about that.
Yeah, the term alignment really actually came from, when I first started working, I actually started in community organizing. And I was working with nonprofits and farmers and government agencies to help do some environmental work. And you can imagine that all three of those entities had some different ideas about how to approach that work. And what I realized is that everybody had a different desire, everybody had a different want, but they all were looking for how do we work together better, right? And so my job was to find the common ground and build from common ground. And as I started getting more involved into small business and the business world, what I started to recognize is that businesses were often taking an approach of fixing one thing at a time. Like, all right, our leads are down, let's get after leads. Or, our operations, we need to document some processes, or finances, we need to shore up our finances, whatever it might be. And they were taking these one-off approaches. And what we started to realize is that if you turn one of those dials, it influences everything else, right? If you change your target market, it might change your core business. If you change your core business, it might change who your target market is, so on and so forth. So what we realized is that, instead of taking this kind of symptoms approach, the best way to address business challenges is to take a systems approach. Let's look at your business as an entire operating unit, as opposed to each individual function operating on its own. And as we've been able to do that, we've been able to kind of pull alignment to the forefront to say, well, if let's make sure that all 5 of those major systems are moving in the same direction. When we see that, we see businesses scale. We see a lot of the issues and challenges that they deal with kind of go to the wayside, so to speak.
So, how does a business know whether it's in or out of alignment?
That's a really great question. There are lots of different variations to this, but some of those things are the symptoms that you would normally see. What we say is you often will see the outputs, right? Which is, hey, we're missing our sales targets. Our, product isn't getting shipped out the door. Nobody's signing up for our workshop. You have disgruntled employees. You have people asking for raises or, equity. You have internal communication breakdowns. Hey, this thing isn't getting done. And those are often symptoms of system problems, right? It's the output that you can see. So if it's tangible, if it's a tactical thing, and you find yourself kind of dealing with these types of issues over and over again, that typically means that, hey, there's something upstream that isn't working very well. There's something upstream that if we fixed it, you wouldn't see these outcomes or you wouldn't see these outputs on the back end. So it looks differently in very many differences in all the different businesses, but often it's the outcomes that you can see. It's the outputs that you can see.
Does it come down to the leadership though? Because, right, we all know that's, stink starts at the head, right? So is it really is it really about the leaders of the organization and how they're communicating and what they're prioritizing?
Absolutely. We have a leadership framework that we tie to this that has kind of 5 key disciplines to it, or 5 key behaviors to it, because what we know is, yeah, we can implement the world's greatest operating system into your business, and it still doesn't work because people are the ones directing that system. And what we often say is that the system is perfectly designed to produce the results that it's producing, right? Which is kind of a, well, obvious statement, but really what that means is, what it requires of the leader is to recognize, like, well, if we're getting this result, if the result is we're missing deadlines, if the result is we have internal communication breakdowns, if the result is our sales are down or our revenue is stagnant, it's like, well, the system is designed to do that. So what we have to do as leaders then is step back and work on the business to say, okay, well, how are we organized? How am I sharing information? How am I, what are we prioritizing or not prioritizing as leaders to then shift that system to produce a different result? So very much to your point, it is absolutely a leadership imperative to take that approach. And there's some behaviors and skills that come along with that.
But what about, all right, so so you've worked with me, you've trained me in your leadership training, but now I'm trying to implement achieving alignment in my business, right? What are some of the common challenges that a small business leader might have when they're trying to, right the ship, if you will?
Yeah, two things. One is often there is a focus on the urgent, right? So there's a term out there called the tyranny of the urgent, which means we spend our time being reactive instead of proactive. And so everything that shows up, all the different issues that you're going to deal with, right? Like, whatever it is, an employee's frustrated or they're asking for more money or they didn't follow through on the thing that they're following through, tends to divert our attention from the long-term activity that we're trying to accomplish, right? So it is managing that short-term versus long-term, which is one of those pieces, is sticking with the priority, knowing this is the system that we want to build, and holding to it. So the tyranny of the urgent is one of those things. And number two is knowing where you are on the map. And so one of the things that we like to say is, business leaders, I think, are really good, generally speaking, at saying, hey, this is where we're going, right? Like, this is the end, this is the journey, this is the destination. But they're not very good at saying, well, where are we starting on the map? So if you ever go, hiking in the woods and you're looking at a hiking trail map, what's the first thing you look for when you look at that map? It's the "you are here" sticker, right? And if you don't know where you are, you don't know how to get where you're going. And so
Right.
one of the other symptoms that I think I see from a leadership perspective is a distance from the reality of where their business actually is. And so they are aiming for this vision, they're aiming for this place that they want to go, but their starting point doesn't make sense because they're not aware of or not in touch with the current reality or the current state of their business. And so they start building things, but they're building things from a rocky foundation, not a firm foundation.
Okay, so break down for us what you call the 5 facets of business.
Yeah, so the 5 facets are culture, strategy, operations, story, which is the sales and marketing category, and finances. And what we find is that, when we do our assessments, when we come in and start working with an organization, we find that most businesses are good at 2 or 3 of those things, right? Especially small businesses. We typically work with businesses that are 5 to 50 employees. And typically they're good at 2 or 3 of those things. So they might have a great culture, they might have a great story, sales and marketing machine, but they can't get the product out the door and their finances are a little bit of a mess, or they're, constantly dealing with people issues, whatever it might be. And so our job is to elevate the aspects of the business that are failing or aren't as systematized or aren't as structured. And what happens is then you elevate everything in the business when you fix whichever facets are failing. And so we take that comprehensive look. Those are all the major buckets, right? Those are all the major operating systems in your business. So when you put all 5 of those things together, it's rocket fuel at that point.
Love it, love it. Well, listen, you're watching the Small Biz Chat podcast. We're going to come back and talk more about alignment. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Hi, I'm Melinda Emerson, Small Biz Lady, and I want to welcome you to Small Biz Lady University. Our mission here is to end small business failure. So all of the courses here are about 2 things: how to become your own boss or how to make money online. So that's what we do here. So whether you want to learn about email marketing and sales funnels, or you're ready to get started with social media selling, or if you're really just getting started with e-commerce, you might want to jump into our How to Sell and Market Online course. Either way, if you want to learn how to become your own boss and do it well, I have everything you need here at smallbizladyuniversity.com. If you have any questions or have any technical problems getting signed up, just email us at support@melindaemerson.com. Take care. Welcome back to the Small Biz Chat podcast. I'm Melinda Emerson, Small Biz Lady, your host, and I'm here with my guest, Dave Newell. Dave, you were talking about the 5 facets of business. Now, can you talk about the stages of alignment, right? You said that one of the biggest challenges is people don't know where they are in the first. Everybody's good at saying the goal, but they don't know how far are we from the goal to begin with. So can you talk about how, what are the 3 stages of alignment and like a key principle behind each one?
Yeah, so the 3 stages are alignment, misalignment, and realignment. And so alignment is, all right, our systems are short up, streamlined, simplify. Our people are committed to those systems. Everything's kind of moving in the same direction. The challenge with alignment is it's not a static state, right? Like once you achieve alignment, it doesn't mean you're going to stay there. Context, situations, economy shifts, etc., right? The environment around your business might change. And so it's a constant state of trying to stay in alignment. Misalignment, which we've already talked about a little bit, is when you start to see those symptoms when your systems aren't working as well or your people aren't committed to operating those systems, and you start to see the pain points, right? You start to see revenue stagnation, internal communication breakdowns, missed deadlines, those types of things. And realignment is the act of discerning where are we, right? Where are we misaligned, making a plan and then executing the plan to get back to alignment. And I think what I often see in the businesses that we work with is when they're in misalignment, it's not that they're unaware that they're misaligned, but what they haven't done is taken the intention to say, where are we misaligned? What's the plan? And how are we going to go ahead and execute this, right? So the realignment is an active state of moving back towards alignment, but it is taking a systems approach, not a symptoms approach.
Mm-hmm. So I know that you sometimes say that you can leverage tension to drive positive change in a business. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so tension shows up all over the place in an organization. Tension is essentially where the hard things are, right? So, human beings have a natural tendency to resist difficult things. We like it when it's easy. We like it when it's comfortable, right? But we often say, what's in the way is the way, right? So where are the hard places? And so with the leaders that we work with, we try to build up a capacity to do what we call kind of run to trouble, meaning, hey, this is a hard place. What we want to do is actually kind of turn ourselves towards the hard place and go dig into it and dig into it fully, right? So tension is the space that might be difficult conversations you're not having, a lack of trust in a particular environment. It might be, hey, this process isn't working, for us, or, our sales pitch isn't working, etc. We often underdo those fixes. We kind of look for the quick fix or the fast fix to those solutions, or here, you deal with it, right? Like, here, let's give that to somebody else and you take on that problem. And really what I'm looking for from leaders in organizations is to find the tense places, to find the places where things aren't working, and to really lean in and dig in and fix those things. Because when you fix it, then everything else starts to get better.
Love it, love it. All right, and tell us, what are some practical strategies or tools that small business owners can use to, improve alignment within their organizations?
Yeah, there's really kind of a generalized thing and then a very practical thing. The generalized thing is what I often find in organizations, and what we built into the 5 facet system is there's design elements and there's execution elements. And generally speaking, your organization is more comfortable with one of those things than the other thing, right? So ideation versus execution might be another way to break that tension down a little bit, right? But those design elements are target market, core business, vision, values, purpose, and kind of forecasting in your finances, and making sure that those things are lined up. Because essentially, like, and key strategy, and essentially what that is, that's the design of our business. That's why we do what we do. It's who we're going to be while we do it, right? And if those things are lined up, okay, now we have the frame, we have the design, we have the structure for our business designed. Now we have to translate that into an execution element, right? So I'll give you a really clean example. A lot of organizations do values, right? Like, I think most small businesses are like, yes, we should have values. We've done values. That often turns into a perfunctory exercise, meaning we did this exercise, we had a retreat, we designed values together, everybody felt great. It was all puppies and kittens and cotton candy. And then we got back to the office on Monday and that guy was being a jerk and then this thing didn't work and we hold nobody accountable to the values that we came up with, right? So values as a design element is a good thing. You need to have that. You also need to have it as an execution thing. So we often add behaviors that are controllable underneath those values. So what are the concrete controllable things that make those values true? We add ritual, which is how are we ritualizing culture? What are some of those touch points that we can add? And then we add in accountability through performance reviews. So it's a good example of being able to bridge the gap between, all right, we have a kind of clear structure that we can do from a design perspective, and then a clear structure that we can do from an execution piece. The really tangible thing that you can do is there are all sorts of kind of small business assessments that you can take. We have one on our website that's free. People can take it. It's 26 questions, takes 5 minutes. And it's a great indicator of where are we on the map, right? You are here. You can do that monthly. You could do that weekly. You could do it as many times as you want. And really what it'll do is it'll just show you like, where are we excelling and where aren't we? Right. So I think a real practical thing is to actually just pause for a minute and take stock and look for, all right, what are some of those symptoms that we're dealing with? And how is that teaching us about the systems that are broken behind it? Right. So it is that just stopping, taking stock, actually assessing your business.
Well, Dave, you have just dropped so much knowledge on me in just this short amount of time. I just have one last question for you. What is the best business advice you've ever gotten?
There's so many. I've been so blessed to have so many wonderful people around me. I've learned a lot from a lot of different entrepreneurs. And I think one of the best stories I've had is about perspective. And so the simple statement is have perspective. And if you find yourself agreeing with the majority, it's time to pause and reflect, which is don't just do what everybody else is doing. Don't just do it because it's trendy or because it's what the thing is, you know, that you're hearing about all the time. You know, read this book, do this thing, follow this process, but do the thing that's really supposed to happen, right? Like, and have your own opinion about it, have your own perspective on it, and lean into that part. And I think that's been really helpful for me, not to chase fads or not to just do the thing that everybody else is doing, but really having a perspective about something that maybe nobody's really talking about or thinking about. That's helped over time.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dave. I really appreciated learning so much about this. And that's a great antidote for us to leave it on. Thank you all for joining me for this episode of the SmallBizChat podcast. If you are an author, speaker, coach, or consultant looking to learn how to become a national brand, I want to help you attract corporate brands, media opportunities, and more at my Brand in Demand 6-month group coaching program, which starts on March 20th. I'm teaching A to Z how to build a $1 million brand. And I've worked with over 150 corporations, and I want to teach you how to do it too. So all you have to do is head over to smallbizladyuniversity.com for more details and sign up today because space is limited. The mission of the SmallBizChat podcast is to end small business failure. And I want to leave you with this. You never lose in business. Either you win or you learn. God bless everybody.